There you go.
There we go. Okay. So, we've all heard that one sound while watching a television show. That sound that's really annoying, and usually if your parents are around, it means that you should change the channel and watch something else. I'm sure you've also been watching a movie and heard a few words in it that aren't that nice, and they change the words to something nicer. I'm also sure you've been watching something and seen a person or a piece of art with a specific area of their body blurred out. These things are all because of the Federal Communications Commission, or the FCC, and are a result of their rules on censorship. I'm here to persuade you today that these rules need to either be done away with or changed to less restrictive ones. So censorship on television is a little bit arbitrary. The FCC's rules are not listed out on their website or on any documents, and they are the ones who decide what is deemed obscene, indecent, or profane. But who is to say what those things are? In a clip from The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, he gave an example using a few pieces of art that had to be blurred out on CBS because they were deemed obscene. And he brought up the case of Jacob Ellis versus Ohio, where Justice Stewart gave the famous quote about porn, "I know it when I see it." He demonstrated how flippant this is with a very specific example of what he wasn't allowed to show on CBS. So be warned, I'm about to show you this example. He drew this picture of female breasts. So be warned. It's very graphic. This is blurred out on CBS. But if he reveals that it's just a part of this, he's allowed to show the whole image. He would cover it up, it'd be blurred. Let it go, not blurred. Blurred, not blurred. Blurred, you get the picture. The language on television is also targeted heavily. Over the course of many years, television has been around, and a lot has changed. In I Love Lucy, for example, she was not allowed to say that she was pregnant, but had to use nicer terms like I'm expecting or with child, because the television audience couldn't handle the word pregnant for some reason. Whenever a movie with foul language is shown on cable television, they either replace it with a new word, bleep it out, or just remove the sound bite completely. And this can add confusion and take away from the impact that the language can add to the scene. One example of this happening is in the movie Die Hard 2. We all know the famous quote from Die Hard, "Yippee-ki-yay." I'm going to censor it for myself. It was dubbed over on television to "Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon," which no one even knows who Mr. Falcon is. He's not even part of the movie. Another example is probably my favorite of television censorship. It's from the movie Snakes on a Plane. It was shown on television. If you know anything about Samuel L. Jackson, you know that he is not one to shy away from using a curse word. In the movie, one scene in particular was changed to say, "Enough is enough. I've had it with these monkey-fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane." Doesn't really make sense. There's no monkeys on the plane. It's not snakes and monkeys on the plane. It's just snakes and people. So that can add to a lot of confusion and really takes away from the impact of him giving up and saying it's time to take action. Another group of people that have a problem with censorship is comedians. In 1972, comedian George Carlin gave a famous monologue in a television special called "The 7 Dirty Words." He gave a list of words that I'm not going to say that can't be used on television no matter what. The monologue gained publicity and was aired on the radio, and a man who actually worked for the FCC was in his car with his son and sued the radio station, and it became known as FCC versus the Pacifica Foundation. The case asked the question, does the First Amendment deny the government any power to restrict the public broadcast of indecent language under any circumstances? And came to the conclusion that no, censorship on public airways is to keep out vulgar language. And a more recent example of a comedian is Amy Schumer recently on Comedy Central fought to be able to use a word that Donald Trump has been found to use and can also describe a cat. She fought to use this word because men are able to use their slang term for a nickname for Richard, let's say. And she won the argument and now is able to say that specific word on Comedy Central. So, the FCC does not honestly need to exist. Most needs in censorship can be met by good parenting and involve the parent in the lives of their child to keep them from saying words or seeing things, and they should know what is being seen. Also, businesses know their audience and know what their target demographic can handle and what they don't want to hear or see. For example, Disney Junior wouldn't show Game of Thrones simply to meet the demographic of young boys who like dragons. So, we can visualize how television with no censorship can be beneficial by picturing both how we live now and a future that is not regulated. In the world we live in now, television airings and movies are confusing, and the director's choice of words to convey emotion are not met and are trivialized. Art cannot be shown to its full potential and is taken away from. For example, you can't show the statue of David for more than 2 seconds, and the picture has to be from a distance, but you can show a full Georgia O'Keeffe painting, which are very sexual, to say the least. Also, kids are disconnected from their parents and end up learning the rights and wrongs from television. However, with no or very limited television censorship, companies are able to show the content they want to the people that will see it. Art can be displayed on television without being taken away, and parents are forced to invest more in their children's lives, showing them the way of the world. One last thing is that people will be more careful with what they say on television and think before they act. In closing, petitions should be made to either get rid of the FCC or to completely change the way we do censorship to show more in depth what people are going to be seeing before they watch a show. Like all the shows that say warning, graphic content should be more in depth because not a lot of people understand the television ratings all the time. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.